future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Rebel Hearts. This is your host, Kristie Reeves. I'm so excited you're joining us today. This is actually a really, really special show for me personally, and we'll share with you in a moment why the show is so special for me. But we want to give a big shout out to our sponsors first. So let's do that. So, Strategy Social is one of the fastest growing Instagram growth agencies in the market today. Strategy Social helps people grow their Instagram to increase their sales for their business, gain more sponsorship for their personal brand, and improve the overall fan base of these companies and brands. It is the best overall customer service and growth company any channel can find on the market today. And Rebel Hearts, we have a special for you. Go to strategysocial.co. .co/rebels for a special offers. And they really are amazing. Aaron, the founder of the company, is a rebel heart himself, and I call him my rock star, so check him out. Before we introduce today's guest, I just want to share something really exciting that's happening in the Kristie Reeves Live outside the Rebel Heart Show. My partner and I have been creating some really amazing courses. And the thing is, I grew up being, I'm an indigo. I grew up being highly sensitive, being an empath, feeling the energies of the people around me. I would walk in the room and all of a sudden would start crying, but it wasn't even my own sadness. It was someone else in the room. Or I would get frustrated and it wasn't even my own frustration. It was something that I was feeling energetically and not having the discernment was mine and was someone else's. So over the years, I've developed many techniques to even, to develop that discernment and clear my energy and have that. I feel like when I have a clear energy field, I'm empowered in my truth. I can feel who I am. I can feel my own intuition, my own thoughts, my own feelings, and then show up in a more empowered me in the world. So my partner Jivananda and I created an energy clearing course that is actually going live today. So check it out. Go to avaitria.com. That's avaitria.com and tune in over there. There's some really good, juicy stuff going on. So let me tell you a little bit about why today's show is so special. So many years ago, I had just graduated college. I went to the Royal Academy of Dance, and I was looking for a job as a dance instructor. And it was really, really interesting because as much as I love ballet, as much as I love dancing and teaching dance, I had the feeling that something was missing in my life. I'm like, there is more to this. I went to school, I got my teaching diploma, but something is missing. What is it? And I kept literally starting to pray and asking for something to come in that would show me what it was that was missing in my life. And through a very synchronistic series of events, and synchronicity is going to be a topic on today's show, I was guided to a book called the Celestine Prophecies. And shortly after I came down with the flu, so all I could do is lay in bed and read the book. And some kind of light bulb went on in my head. I'm like, that is it. These are the tools that I've been missing. It's these spiritual tools and the 10 insights or the 10 lessons. I got to the 10th insight shortly after. It was such an eye-opener for me. And then I came across a book called The Experimental Guide to the Celestine Prophecy. And I went through the different exercises, and I didn't even make it through 1/3 of the book when my life started changing just applying these principles. And it really put me on the journey that I'm on today. And as you know, Rebel Hearts, this show is all about inspiring you to become the change that you want to see in the world. So let me introduce you to the author who wrote the book that made me become the change that I wanted to see in the world. Let us welcome James Redfield. Hello, James.
Hello. Nice to be with you. Introduced, right?
That's amazing. Thank you. It's. I said to you before we start the show, it's so surreal for me to sit here talking to you because I came across your book, I think it was in the mid-90s, like 96 or something like that. And it's more than 20 years later, and here we are sitting as something really special is happening with the Celestine Prophecies. And we're going to talk about that in a moment when we talk about the vision you have for the new earth and the new consciousness that's being birthed at the moment. But where I actually want to start is where it started for you and how the Celestine Prophecies and the different insights actually came to you. Would you share a little bit about that, please?
Sure. It's very interesting, my story. I was I grew up in a very small Christian church and surrounded by tremendously loving and thoughtful and, sort of spirit-filled people. Mm-hmm. And the energy was amazing. And I could just see all these spiritual tune-ins that they exhibited, this love, this sense of helping each other and caring for each other and that sort of thing. And I was the one who, wanted questions answered. I had all these questions, and they lived it, but they couldn't really intellectualize what they were doing. And so I came in with a sense of, wait a minute, we can understand spirituality. We can understand what we get from spirituality. It's the real secret of spirituality and spiritual consciousness is what it is that it transforms your life. It gives you a peace beyond all understanding. It gives you confidence. You have this inner sense of mission. All the things that people find going spiritual. So, because again, it downloads our highest intelligence. So it's not, there's a lot of people out there who believe in spirituality and don't really discuss all the authentic experiences of spirituality. So I think that the time is now to start to do that. But at the time, I just, they just got me out of there, sent me to college. I found my way into a kind of transpersonal psychology program, became a therapist. And during that time, and this was the blossoming of what's now called the human potential movement, I really, there was a breakthrough in that we realized that in the science of helping, it doesn't really help a lot of our hurts and our anger and our anxiety to talk about it.
Yeah.
The only way to move past the things that hold us back is to replace it with a higher consciousness that replaces all that. So when I realized that, I realized that we're at a very important time on the earth at that point. And so I started an academic book about spirituality, which was, I got a third of the way through and I started reading and I said, well, this is boring me. And I realized that what I needed to do is write a book about the experiences in a story, my experiences, experiences other people are having. And that became the Celestine Prophecy. Nice. So, my feeling was that, I was describing something that was already occurring out there. And it was expanding. Yeah. And I tell people all the time, these insights aren't James Redfield's secrets. I was describing the steps into spirituality as I saw them happening around me. Yeah. So that was a key motivation for the book. I just wanted to describe these steps up in consciousness. You could maybe even call it an activation of the rest of our brains. Call it a spiritual download as we clarity about what's going on in life. So I tried to convey that in the Celestine Prophecy, and had no publishers. We created our own publishing company, and what happened was people realized that, hey, this put into words the experiences I'm having, and I started to pass around all over the world, essentially. Yeah. And that passed along for 2 years, made it the most read book in the world. So, which in my view said nothing about me as author, but it said something about the concepts as being valid to other people.
Yeah. And
So
yeah.
that was my journey. And of course, what happened was very unique in books. The book went viral before we even had that term.
That is amazing.
It was pretty interesting.
And I think there's something really fascinating that happened, because I remember reading how you drove across the country with a truckload full of books in your car, pretty much, and were giving it out to different bookshops or to different people. And then,
That's right.
And then all of a sudden, it went viral. A movement happened, and for me, it's so fascinating, because one of the things you actually talk about, and as one of the insights, is the energy of giving, and what the energy of giving gives back to us. So share a little bit more about it.
Well, what we decided was that we would take the book around the country, small bookshops, doing talks. But what happened was that we had a formula, and the formula was go in a bookstore, give the buyer, whoever handled the buying of books, give them the information to order, give them a book, and then whoever happened to be in the bookstores, the book was about synchronicity.
Yeah.
So I figured that whoever was there they were there to read the Celestine Prophecy. So we gave all these books out. We gave 2,000 books away, maybe. And then, of course, it just went viral. And later, I found just the right publisher, a New York publisher, to get it out there everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's the story, But to me, what really thrilled me as the author was that people were discovering this spiritual experience within themselves, that's more than obviously what religions talk about. Every religion has their own take on spirituality, but as a result of the science that came out of psychology as far back as Carl Jung, we now understand, in my view, how to tune in, the process of tuning in, and the key authentic spiritual experiences that give us the best life possible, and also help us break through what's holding us back. So it's pretty fun to have seen all that happen, and books go everywhere.
I absolutely love that, and which brings me to my next question, because you talk about the Celestine Consciousness. And it's a double question. So first of all, what is the Celestine Consciousness? And which is, I guess, in a nutshell. And because I know that it's a whole, our
website is Celestine Vision. So I think what I really mean about if you sort of agree with the Celestine point of view, you're really agreeing with a kind of lived spiritual point of view. So it's not, it's certainly not anything that is even a movement. It's a joining with other people in the world. And this is especially happening now because, the book was out there, it exploded on the scene, and then it just sort of was there simmering and people still passing along. And then all of a sudden what happened was two more generations arrived, millennials and their children who are going to college right now.
Yeah.
So, what I realized, and I got a call from the publisher who said, "Did you know that Celestine is surging again among millennials?" And I said, "Well, I thought maybe, but apparently millennials are passing it along and talking about it, and their children are in college and they're discovering it and talking about it, which means that two more generations will soon be." Those two groups will soon be the majority population on the earth.
Wow.
Are now tuning in to and taking spirituality seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's an individual, the Celestine message is that spirituality is not joining. We can choose our religious point of view, and a lot of us grew up with various religions, but the consciousness itself is something that goes beyond. And so what we're joining is the human potential of a sort of clarity. It feels like we reach a clarity about how we can center into our own lives, how we can find our peace, how we can solve, use a kind of download of intuitiveness that we can realize in ourselves, and have this life where we remember what we came here to do, and find that special work that is ours, that gives us a great inspiration. Those are all things that are our birthright, really. But this moment in history, we have the opportunity to create a future, and if people relate to the Celestine Prophecy as a kind of description of the future that we can have, then we can make it that way. It's an authentic, anti-cult, anti-control, egalitarian, everybody's included, but yet it allows us to download a kind of consciousness that is can be transformative on the planet. So it's been happening a while, but I think with these two generations coming in now, it can come alive and solve the serious problems and the degree of corruption that we have in the world, and move past that, create something really conscious out there.
Yeah, and what I feel like there is a lot of polarity that I currently see on the planet, where we see the things that we would describe as negative or as lower vibrational, or all the drama, the traumas, the drama, the separation that we've been living for millennia now. And then this other aspect of people coming together, or even people at a young age. Because, I talk about the indigo and the rainbow children quite a lot. The kids who are bringing in a new consciousness, who are paving the path for something, for new structures to be created over here. All that is happening at the same time. What do you see in that polarity that we're currently experiencing at the moment, and why is it's stronger? Personally, it feels stronger now than it felt 20 years ago.
Right. Well, I believe that there are two forces in the world. One is kind of ego creation that's happening out there, where a lot of people don't believe in anything. They just are in the secular consciousness. I really call it a delusion, but they're in this world, materialistic world. They never think about anything else. And what happens there is the ego begins to think it can force a future. And what happens is that the ego will misuse and manipulate and control people, and think in terms of what I can get from people, or through this manipulation. And really, that's what's occurring in the world. There's a world of ego, greed, manipulation out there, and it's, if you want to call that the place where we spring from into spirituality, that's fine. But it's a kind of separation. There's that world, and then there is a choice we make to go into a spiritual consciousness, and it's not random. There's a kind of order to it. The insights talk about it. It's karmic. There's a karmic path that makes the world suddenly easier if we grasp that. And it's around giving. In my view, the operating program on the planet is giving. Yeah. Because what happens if you're a giver, you draw more givers into your life. Therefore, if you ask yourself, how can I be a synchronicity for this person that I'm crossing paths with? What happens is that you get the answer. Yeah. It comes from your spiritual intelligence. And then that's in that part of ourselves, that larger intelligence that's intuitive, grows bigger. And so, yeah, we get the right answer when we ask ourselves, how can we help this person? How can we become a synchronicity, open a door for a person that we cross paths with? And the karmic function is that we start to draw people that are also givers into our lives. So even more synchronicity happens to allow our dreams to come true.
That's so beautiful. I love that.
Well, it's what people can prove to themselves. You know, I mean, if you're living in a kind of secular world where it has no meaning and everything's random, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But if you start to tune in to, you know, the spiritual dimension in this world, then what happens is you realize that life can be better and easier. We can have more self-confidence. We can have more clarity about what we want to do next. Opportunities open up for us. You know, that's the way of giving, and that's what it opens up because of the design of this planet, on this planet. But if you're a taker, now let's talk about that. If you're a taker, you know, you also draw in people that act just like you. That slows your energy down, and you feel like everybody's manipulating you, but it's not punishment. See, that's the enlightened reality of this is it's not punishment. It's so you can see the hurt that you do to others by feeling it yourself.
Yeah, it's a reflection.
Move into a different way. So to me, it's a brilliant, however it got created, operating program. And again, it's not I'm not saying discovering this. And trying to impose this on the world. It's something that everybody can sort of, in the process of waking up, prove to themselves.
And you brought something up that plays a very important role in the Celestine Prophecy as well. And it played a really important role in my discovery after reading the book, which is synchronicity. And I said earlier in the show, through synchronicity, I found the book. And then when I applied the principle, it was synchronicity that brought me on the path that I'm on. It literally opened doors for me where things were starting to happen that were most of the time really unexpected. And I'm like, wow, that's how the universe works. That's how the divine God works. And it was so just absolutely beautiful for me. So tell us, what are the principles of synchronicity and why is synchronicity so important? What can synchronicity do for us, or how can it support us?
Well, it's two things. One is that it's the absolute proof that there is a spiritual reality and that we're helped in this world. In other words, you know, the spiritual reality of this world is that, you know, it's waiting for us to engage in this program of expansion and the inspired life. And the way we're helped is these, you know, we have an intuitive hunch that we would want to do something. And sometimes it's just looking for a solution to a problem. And we wonder how that problem can be solved. And, you know, it might be a need to find a job. You know, you lose a job and it might be the need to find a job. And what happens is, you know, you're on a bus somewhere and behind you, someone's talking about a new website that really helps people find the jobs of their dreams or something, you know, I mean, and is that a random chance event? No, I don't think so. I think that is the help we get if we tune in to these mysterious coincidences that happen on our journeys. And I think that synchronicity grows for us once we tune in. First, it solves problems. Then it gives us clarity about what we really want to do here. You know, what's our truth to tell the world, you know, and it doesn't have to be just a spiritual truth. It can be a better widget that frees the world up, you know, or helps the environment, or you know, there's plenty of technology dreams and new technology and living more in harmony with nature. All those goals, you know, people have, and those truths people want to actualize in the world. So everybody, but see, the thing is, we all have a sense of that dream we want to live out, the path we want to take in our lives, that truth we want to tell the world ultimately. And synchronicity first solves our problems, gets us on our feet. Synchronicity then gives us a clarity about that truth that we're here to tell. And then if we follow, if we keep if we don't lose the flow, it will lead us into a journey into the exact right place to be to deliver our truths. So it's all set up for that, in my view, and I just think that we can. All we have to do is engage and prove it to ourselves.
That's absolutely beautiful. Thank you, James. I want to talk a little bit about the topic of separation, because as I see the consciousness of that planet evolving, and when I look at the Celestine vision, for me, a lot is connected to the overcoming of separation and the returning of oneness. No matter if it's our inner separation, what you shared about, we might be disconnected from our path. We might feel disconnected from other people. And there is a me and you, I'm here and you're there. And these walls that have divided us through different languages or cultures or even religion that are, we have the ability to start changing. It's already changing. So what do you see in that particular evolution of consciousness, and how can the Celestine, the insights, the lessons that you're sharing, helping us return to that oneness?
Well, I think that once we move through, I call them insights, but they're also abilities, new abilities. Recognizing synchronicities and getting into a flow of synchronicities is just the first step. All the rest of the sort of fuller downloads of spirituality that when we tune in, we can get, synchronicity will take us through those steps. And that's happening more and more out there. And, in my view, there are 12. When I first wrote the Celestine Prophecy, in my view, there was only 9 of these revelations active in the world. And in the last 20 years, I felt like, I didn't write another book until I could convince myself there was another breakthrough happening in the consciousness of the planet. So, the 10th insight, the 11th insight, and then the 12th insight, I never dreamed of writing those until I actually found these sort of fuller downloads happening in myself and others, and felt like it was really happening in this wave of enlightenment on the planet. Now, I always like to stop at this point and say, look, you're not going to hear this on the nightly news. It's they're actually, that consciousness, that secular consciousness, is especially when it's greed oriented and power oriented, and it's the consciousness that is moving over to this light side of life, moving over to full consciousness. And in my view, it's we're reaching a kind of critical mass. First chapter of the book is entitled the critical mass. When you really turn, it's the 100th monkey theory, applied to consciousness. And quick story, the 100th monkey theory was based on monkeys that were isolated from by themselves on not planets, but islands, and they in the fossil record, they finally figured out where, when suddenly these particular monkeys began to use primitive tools, breaking coconuts with bones, heavy bones, and things like that, using tools. And at first it happened in one area, and then without any really drifting of monkeys themselves, because they were isolated. When at a certain point, that awareness of the tools and use of tools spread everywhere. So from then on, even though at first began on an isolated area. All of a sudden, when enough monkeys realized they could use that, all the monkeys in the world, of these kinds of monkeys, realized that somehow got a psychic tune in, and they popped into that recognition that they could make, use tools. So it's called 100th monkey theory. So
Yeah.
when the 100th monkey could use the tools, all monkeys of this kind everywhere could use those tools. So they psychically got it. So that's the same way. And that you talk about oneness. Dr. Larry Dossey wrote a great book called Oneness, and it's that we, to some degree, because we are hooked into the great spiritual mind, we share minds. So at some point, we're going to create a general view of spirituality. All the religions will get enlightened into the authentic spirit. They would include all the authentic spiritual experiences in their religions, and we'll be able to, everybody will be a lot easier once we reach a certain critical mass. It'll be a lot easier for everybody to tune in spiritually, and it'll seem normal. But it'll create a new culture on the planet. Now, I have to tell you that that there are forces that are fighting this. I mean, they don't want to lose their place. They're living pretty well in the secular delusion. But it'll eventually pop everywhere.
Yeah.
And we see it. I don't know. A lot has changed. Look out there at the news, you would think, well, people hate each other everywhere. Everybody's hating everybody else, and egos are running wild, and politics is just about political manipulation and anger and all that, and the world is going crazy with terrorism and all. But that's only the machinations of the old world moving into a higher spirituality.
And
that section will get smaller and smaller as we go forward.
So
that's a message of the Celestine Prophecy and the Celestine Prophecy books. And I think people who really take a look at the world from that point of view can see the growth of the light side happening.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, please. This is, I have to take a moment, take a breath away, because that was just so beautiful what you shared. So thank you, James. We talked about, first of all, I believe that every single person on this planet has the capacity to create positive change.
Without a doubt.
And we talked about a couple of the principles, tools, teachings from the Celestine Prophecies, such as synchronicity or the aspect of giving. What other tools or what other things can we incorporate in our lives that help us become the change makers that we all have the capacity to be?
What I think is the biggest one at this point is what I call finding your peace. Finding your the peace that surpasses all understanding. There's a download. Numerous scriptures across cultures talk about a point in consciousness that where we can, our fears and anger and hurts can be released, and this joy comes in, and it's a heart opening, and what happens is that then our central motivation and our central emotion becomes love. And I'm not talking about romantic love or movie love. I'm talking about authentic love as a basic emotional state that has no object. We all love our pets and our children and our parents and our loved ones, right? Everybody knows what love feels like to a degree. It's when we can open up to grasp this emotion, this connection that really brings us to a state of love that we can hold on to,
Yeah.
will we really be free?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that I believe we know the technology absolutely for doing this right now. It's all come out, it's the meditation is loved by people all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
People who really grasp meditation and use it know that it's transforming over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe what we're realizing now is that there's a kind of a love contemplation meditation where we just try to break through into this emotional state and we feel this love. And what happens is, what prevents us from going there, from opening up to that, is the hurts, the anger, anxiety out there that we feel, because that's a kind of separation feeling. We're all alone in the world. But there's a kind of contemplation where we just sit alone or walk alone. You can do this walking, don't do it driving, please. But we can, if we contemplate this inner heart opening, we'll get it. Because that's a power of intention, and the whole prayer power that we can master is there in this. And if we just tough it out, and every time we feel that anger or feel that anxiety or feel that hurt that we often blame on someone else, we have to let it go. We have to just let it go, come back to love, come back to the search for love. And that is a process over time that will completely change one's life. Now, it's simple as I just said. You just have to be persistent. And everybody who's been persistent always opens up to what is the emotional state and the degree of divine connectivity and connectivity with each other. That is this place. As I say, it's our birthright to have that. And now we know the procedures to do it. The hard part is to get in the habit of doing it, as you know. I mean, meditation, the anxiety comes up when we're just sitting alone, much less doing it every day for 20 minutes. But I would just say that's the key thing. Everything else flows from that. A sense of, because what you get is a sense of centeredness. And in other words, the way that feels is that's kind of a clarity that puts you in the middle of your movie unfolding, your destiny unfolding. But on the star of your own movie, and I don't mean in a narcissistic way. I mean in a consciousness way. You're suddenly in the flow of your life, at the center of your movie, and you can start to see those synchronicities and the guidance and the inner sense of something you want to do in the world, and you can break through to that. And it's amplified when you do it with other people. So that's what I would say was the basic first thing you could transform your life with. But then you just follow synchronicity through the other, what I call insights. And again, I guess it's my way of describing how to do it. Other people will prove these things to themselves in whatever order it's right for them to go through. So it's individual centered. You have to become the center of your movie, open up to that consciousness, and let it evolve who you are in the world.
And you just said something, or two things that are very beautiful. First of all, you said you have to become the center of your own movie. And then earlier you also said we're getting these outside triggers, and this person is doing this to me, and this person is upsetting me, and this person is not fulfilling my needs. But what I feel is when we can go into what you just described into that meditative state and reconnect to the energy of love, we're actually seeing that we're not a victim of circumstances. Or we're not being victimized, but we're connecting to the ultimate vibration of this universe, which is love, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's the connecting power, but also the power that gives you most self-confidence, the most intuitive download, you, the best of your intuitive intelligence, knowing the moves to make in the world. All that that comes from this centeredness and meditation.
Amazing. There is something really special that's happening to the Celestine Prophecy. There's a re-release that's happening right now.
That's right. I mentioned that apparently the new generations are discovering this book and passing it along. It's starting to grow in these two generations. We are creating a new edition that includes an afterword that I've written, answering the question, "What now?"
Yeah.
And
so what is now?
I've never done, but, I'm doing it now because I think it's understandable.
Yeah.
You can, how do you maintain? You read Celestine Prophecy, and if you go, "Wow, I love this view of the world." While I was reading, I was centered into my own flow. What do I do now? Well, the afterward is my thoughts on how you keep that place and grow that consciousness for yourself.
Yeah.
You're not listening to this. It's not James Redfield's thing. It's yours. And it's our birthright as individuals to tune in to this spiritual awareness.
Yeah. And what do you feel it's different now compared to when you first wrote the book and just on a human consciousness and the state of the human evolution?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Would you ask it again?
Yeah. What do you feel is different now compared to about 20 years ago when you first wrote the book?
There's a lot more, there's less criticism. The secular world, even the people that are hung up in the secular world and thinking there's nothing, even they know something's wrong with the world, right? There's something missing in the world. Even people. So with the power of two new generations, and I think millennials and their children represent the implementers of this consciousness that we're talking about, because they know, it's hard to get engaged in this world because it's so crazy. We know how to get in this mess. That's what you. And they're right. They're right. Yeah. But you ask that question, you're set up to do something about it, right?
Yeah.
The solution is spiritual consciousness. Talking about it. We're asking people to, just adopt, a kind of individual joining of the critical mass and live it out loud. Tell people about it. There's literally hundreds of thousands of Celestine Prophecies on people's bookshelves. There's nothing. Everybody out there who has one also knows someone who might just enjoy it. So we're also trying to just ask people to pass these books around. There's lots of them around, I have lots of events planned, so we'll be having a lot of meetups. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of do all this consciously. CelestineVision.com is our website. You can see the events planned for me, which will be worldwide. It's time to kind of live it out loud and make a difference. The world needs to shift very quickly.
Yes.
I think we can all agree.
We do. It's time.
That's my. That's the energy I would like to see happen in the future. Energy of living this out loud and passing love around.
I love it. Absolutely holding that vision with you, James. How have the principles of the Celestine Prophecy changed your own life since you first wrote the book?
Well, as the author, I was the first one to read it, right?
Yeah.
Process, if you've written, the people who write know this. The process of writing a book is to listen to the flow of your own ideas and getting them on paper.
Yeah.
Now, everybody who has done this knows that it's coming from a higher place than your ordinary ego, right? No matter what, it's the topic. It's coming from a place your greatest intelligence. So it's, as a human being writing the Celestine Prophecy, it was very much a download
Mm-hmm.
based on my experiences, but others, and it was a story that came, but um, I had to heed its message just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we grow up,
Mm-hmm.
and there's kind of a process of
Mm-hmm.
awakening that
Mm-hmm.
normally happens with a generation.
Mm-hmm.
You hit 30, and everybody talks about hitting 30 the same way. You
Mm-hmm.
have to find a way to make a living.
Yeah.
Got to, you've got to uh, join the world at some level, even though you think
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But then over the course, people have children after that, and
Mm-hmm.
and then there are a lot of tasks in life, getting these
Mm-hmm.
children up to a certain point in life, uh, having enough money to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so all that feels the same until about 38.
Yeah.
That's when you decide, wait a minute, is this what I really want to do all my life? And you see 40 is flying toward you,
Mm-hmm.
and you go, uh-oh, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do this dream of mine, I better jump on the wagon now,
Mm-hmm.
jump on this dream now.
Mm-hmm.
And again, because of a full discussion about spiritual help that's
Mm-hmm.
happening out there right now,
Yeah.
we can learn to do that. It's 38
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be as hard as it sometimes is.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was going through all that
Mm-hmm.
as I was writing Celestine, wanting to write the Celestine Prophecy, and then finally writing it, and then dealing with
Mm-hmm.
the ego demands
Mm-hmm.
of it. And so, sure, I had to, if I was going, I had to practice staying grounded, not getting
Mm-hmm.
caught up in the media frenzy
Mm-hmm.
of that when it went viral.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has to do that and
Yeah.
center
Yeah.
on their own path. And let me tell you, the missions that are most important in life are the ones that nobody else knows about. It's
Yeah.
not about being famous. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about being known. It's not about any of that. It's
Mm-hmm.
about telling the truth you're here in this time period to tell to the other people you cross paths with.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes especially children.
Yeah.
So, the most important mission
Mm-hmm.
is being a guide for children.
Mm-hmm.
But then the missions can be any other enlightened truth that helps the culture evolve into a more conscious place.
Mm-hmm.
But we just have to take it seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all have destiny waiting for us to step into.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it changed me a lot, but it also kept me pretty humble because I knew, this whole experience was just my truth coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to find my own center.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew to talk about it in the world.
Mm-hmm. That is absolutely beautiful. And James, I would love to keep talking to you, but we're getting our 1 minute wrap up sign over here. So, but I feel like where we just are, it's just a beautiful place to finish. It felt like such a beautiful message you just shared with us. And I just want to thank you so much for the honor of being on Rebel Hearts, of being such a rebel heart in this world and creating this beautiful divine consciousness and giving us the tools and giving us the inspiration that we're all capable of creating this. And we're all capable of creating this together. So thank you so much for being who you are and for everything that you're doing and showing up in this world. Thank you, James.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all you do. You're spreading the word out there, and it's very, very important. And if people become givers, meditate, contemplate the love emotions, their lives will change very quickly.
Thank you. Okay, Rebel Hearts. That's it for today. I so want to thank you for joining us on today's show. I hope you are as inspired as I am. Go out and get the Celestine Prophecies if you haven't read it yet. And if you have read it yet already, buy some extra books and give it to your friends, your family members. Let's spread that consciousness because, as James so beautiful said, we can all create that positive change, finding our path, look out for the signs of synchronicity, and become the change that you want to see in the world. So, Rebel Hearts, continue to rebel on, and we'll see you the next time around.
In the future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from universal